The Pacific Ocean was quiet that morning, a silver sheet reflecting the soft light of dawn. Then, in one violent instant, it erupted in flame. On November 3, 2025, 200 miles southwest of Hawaii, the Russian nuclear submarine K-549 Prince Vladimir waited beneath the waves. Officially, it was a scientific patrol. In reality, it was the centerpiece of Operation Northern Spear, a mission designed to remind Washington that Russia's power still reached across oceans. The submarine, a Beret A-class vessel worth nearly $900 million, carried 6 R-30 Bulava M missiles, each armed with 10 100-kiloton nuclear warheads, enough to destroy 60 major cities in 5 minutes. For 9 days, the crew drifted silently through the depths, pretending to study marine currents while tracking U.S. defenses. Then, at 8:45 a.m. Moscow time, an encrypted message arrived. Prepare for test launch. Target Hawaiian perimeter. The captain, a 42-year-old veteran, gave the order. At 10:02 a.m. Hawaii time, 6 missiles burst from the sea, their engines ripping through the ocean with deafening force. The R-30S rose toward the stratosphere, traveling at nearly 7 times the speed of sound. Their target was Pearl Harbor, the heart of America's Pacific Navy. Above, Oahu was calm. Sailors were beginning their shifts. Families were commuting to work. The radar system meant to protect Hawaii, the A/SPY-6 array worth $240 million, was offline for maintenance. Backup sensors had failed overnight because of a software glitch. The island's defense network was blind. At 9:52 a.m., Petty Officer Elias Ward, a 27-year-old technician, noticed faint signals on his screen. Echoes from the southwest, 210 miles away. He reported them, but his superior dismissed the reading as atmospheric interference. 10 minutes later, the sky split open. The first warhead detonated above the fuel depot, turning 3.8 million liters of jet fuel into a wall of fire that rose hundreds of meters into the air. The explosion shattered more than 6,000 windows around Pearl Harbor. The second missile struck the power plant, plunging western Oahu into darkness. In less than 2 minutes, Hawaii's most critical military base was burning. 17 people were killed, 320 wounded, and damages exceeded $6 billion, a quarter of Hawaii's annual economy. From orbit, satellites captured the horror, the Pacific glowing red, the ocean reflecting fire instead of sunlight. Thousands of miles away in Washington, D.C., the Situation Room filled with red-lit screens. Live footage showed hangars collapsing and flames licking at the sea. No one spoke until the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff broke the silence with 3 words: authorize immediate retaliation. The president nodded. Within minutes, Operation Iron Tempest was launched. Far across the Pacific, aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford, the Navy's $13 billion aircraft carrier, alarms sounded. Crews raced across the deck as jet engines roared to life. 4 aircraft were prepared, 1 EA-18G Growler for electronic warfare, and 3 F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters armed with 15 AGM-158 CLR-ASM cruise missiles. Their mission was simple: strike the Vladivostok Naval Base, home to the Russian Pacific Fleet. At 10:46 a.m., the formation lifted off, climbing to 41,000 feet. The jets roared west at nearly Mach 1, their shadows gliding across the endless blue. Their target, Vladivostok, was known as the Iron Fortress of the East. It housed 4 Beret A submarines, 2 Yasen M attack subs, the missile cruiser Varyag, and more than 6,000 personnel. The base was buried under granite cliffs and protected by Russia's best air defenses. For decades, it had been considered untouchable. That illusion shattered at 5:01 p.m. local time. Inside the base's command center, radar operators saw static spread across their screens. Moments later, dozens of ghost aircraft appeared, moving at impossible speeds. It was an illusion created by the EA-18G Growler, which had unleashed ALQ-249 next-gen jamming pods, flooding Russian radar with 600 megawatts of interference. The entire defense network went blind. At 5:03 p.m., the F-35s dove through the clouds at Mach 1.2. Their missile bays opened, releasing 15 cruise missiles that skimmed the waves just 200 feet above the surface. Each carried 450 kilograms of high-explosive tungsten, intelligent, self-guided, and nearly unstoppable. Russia's S-400 air defense system responded with 12 interceptors worth millions of dollars each. Only 5 hit their targets. 10 missiles continued toward the harbor. The first struck Dry Dock 2, where a Hawaiian M submarine was under repair. 200 tons of steel vanished in a flash. The second missile hit the fuel depot, igniting 72,000 gallons of diesel and turning the harbor into a lake of fire. 5 more penetrated the underground submarine pen, cracking 6 meters of reinforced concrete and setting off a chain of explosions that shook the city. By 5:09 p.m., the harbor was an inferno. Flames rose 1,800 feet high, visible from 70 kilometers away. 3 submarines sank where they were docked, and the cruiser Varyag split in half. More than 1,800 Russian sailors were killed or wounded. From orbit, satellites captured a second scar glowing on Earth's surface. By 6:30 p.m., both Hawaii and Vladivostok were burning. In just 9 hours, the world had witnessed 2 superpowers trade fire. Damages topped $38 billion, and more than 1,000 lives were lost. For the first time since 1962, the planet had seen a nuclear-capable standoff erupt into action, and somehow both sides survived. Markets collapsed overnight. The Dow Jones dropped 2,400 points. Oil prices jumped 18%. NATO raised its alert to DEFCON 3, the highest in decades. In Beijing, Chinese state television aired 5 minutes of static, a silent warning that even distant nations were afraid to speak. The Pentagon released a brief statement: retaliation complete, strategic stability restored. But everyone knew there was no stability left. The world had changed forever. When dawn rose on November 4th, the first light revealed 2 cities on opposite sides of the world, united by the same gray smoke. In Hawaii, rescue teams searched through melted steel. The air stank of fuel and ash. Survivors said the explosion felt like the sky itself was falling. In Vladivostok, families gathered by the harbor, watching blackened ships drift in silence. Their proud naval fortress had become a graveyard. Analysts called it the first limited nuclear confrontation of the modern age, but there was nothing limited about its cost. Global markets lost $1.3 trillion in 24 hours. Shipping routes froze, airlines rerouted around radiation clouds, governments from London to Tokyo redefined what deterrence meant. Both Washington and Moscow claimed victory, yet neither side celebrated. The Pacific had swallowed the wreckage, but it could not hide the truth. The ocean that once carried trade and peace now carried ghosts. In the end, the world learned a lesson it wished it hadn't. War no longer needs armies. It only needs a single blind minute and the will to pull the trigger. As the sun rose over calm waves, the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was fear. Somewhere below those same waters, a single sonar ping echoed and disappeared, a reminder that the war had not ended. It was only waiting.